The mysterious incident in the far reaches of the galaxy where stars shine like tiny gems against the vast darkness, a new player had begun to emerge. The human race, once a minor presence among countless alien civilizations, had recently shown surprising strength and determination. The galaxy had watched, intrigued, but largely indifferent, as humans began to make their mark. But everything changed with an event that would be talked about for years to come. It started quietly, as many great stories do. On the outskirts of the galaxy, an elite group of alien assassins known as the Shadow Guild were given a new target: humans. The Shadow Guild was renowned for their lethal efficiency. They had taken down some of the most formidable leaders and dangerous enemies across the stars. Their skills were unmatched, and their reputation was one of fear. No one had ever escaped their grasp. But humans were different, and they were about to find out just how different. The Shadow Guild's mission was straightforward. A high-ranking human diplomat, Ambassador Alara Jameson, was to be eliminated during a diplomatic summit on the neutral world of Viridian Prime. The assassins had studied her movements, routines, and even her security detail. It seemed like a perfect plan. Yet things went awry in a way that no one could have anticipated. On the day of the summit, Ambassador Jameson was surrounded by her team and a host of representatives from other species. The venue was a grand hall, filled with a mix of alien dignitaries and human officials. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. Everyone was focused on the discussions about potential treaties and alliances. The assassins, cloaked in their stealth technology, were poised to strike. As the assassins moved into position, they activated their cloaking devices, rendering them nearly invisible to the naked eye. Their advanced equipment allowed them to bypass most standard security measures. However, something felt off. The atmosphere was charged with an almost palpable tension, but the assassins pushed on, confident in their success. Just as they were about to make their move, an unexpected event occurred. A sudden blinding light filled the room. It was not an explosion or a weapon, but rather an unexpected burst of energy. The human security systems, which had been subtly upgraded in the days leading up to the summit, had detected the intrusion. Within seconds, the once invisible assassins were now visible, their cloaks failing to shield them from the sudden surge of detection technology. Ambassador Jameson's security team reacted with remarkable speed. They had been expecting a possible attack but had not anticipated the sheer audacity of the assassins. Laser fire erupted as the guards engaged the intruders. The assassins, skilled though they were, found themselves in a desperate fight for their lives. They had been caught off guard, and their confidence was waning quickly. In the chaos, the leader of the assassins, a figure known only as Xylar, tried to coordinate a retreat. Xylar was known for his calm demeanor under pressure, but even he could not maintain his composure now. The human defenses were overwhelming, and it became clear that the mission was doomed. Ambassador Jameson, while shaken, remained calm. She had been trained to handle crises, and she used the confusion to her advantage. As the battle raged around her, she issued orders for a full lockdown of the summit hall. The doors sealed shut, trapping the assassins inside and cutting off any chance of escape. The situation was under control, but the damage to the assassins' pride was immense. The failed attack was over quickly. The surviving assassins were captured, and the diplomatic summit continued, albeit under much tighter security. The news of the failed assassination spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Shadow Guild, whose reputation had been built on an unbroken string of successful missions, now faced a situation where their failures were being broadcasted to every corner of space. Across the galaxy, the response was immediate. Alien leaders who had previously underestimated humanity began to reassess their views. The failed assassination had shown that humans were not just another minor species to be dismissed. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the implications of this new reality were significant. For the Shadow Guild, the incident was more than just a failed mission. It was a blow to their honor and a challenge to their very existence. The assassins had always operated from the shadows, but now they found themselves in the spotlight, scrutinized and questioned. The failed mission had far-reaching consequences, sparking debates and discussions among their ranks and across the galaxy. The once feared assassins were now forced to confront the fact that humans had become a significant player in galactic affairs. The incident had not only exposed their vulnerability, but also sparked a new wave of respect and caution towards the human species. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before that fateful day. As the dust settled, Ambassador Jameson and her team were hailed as heroes. Their quick thinking and preparedness had saved the day. The human diplomatic team used the incident to bolster their position, showing that they were not only capable of defending themselves, but also of turning a crisis into an opportunity. The galaxy had been shaken by the incident, and the balance of power had shifted. The once dominant Shadow Guild had been humbled, and the human race had shown that they were more than capable of handling the challenges of the cosmos. The mysterious incident was just the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history, one where humans would no longer be seen as mere bystanders, but as key players in the grand narrative of space. Shockwaves across the galaxy. The failed assassination attempt on Ambassador Alara Jameson had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of the incident spread rapidly, reaching every corner of the vast cosmos. The once invincible Shadow Guild had been exposed as vulnerable, and the galaxy was buzzing with speculation and intrigue. In the heart of the galaxy, the High Council of the Zoraxians convened an emergency meeting. The Zoraxians were a powerful and influential race, known for their advanced technology and strategic prowess. The council members, who had previously dismissed humans as minor players, now faced an urgent crisis of their own. Chairman Vrennick, the head of the Zoraxian High Council, slammed his fist on the table. "This incident cannot be ignored," he declared, his voice booming through the chamber. The Shadow Guild's failure to eliminate a human diplomat is a clear sign that our calculations about their capabilities were flawed. We must reassess our strategy and approach to these humans. The council members exchanged nervous glances. They had always viewed humans as a quaint, insignificant species, but the failed assassination had challenged that perception. The Zoraxians had long been involved in various schemes and conflicts across the galaxy, and the sudden rise of human influence was something they had not anticipated. Meanwhile, on the distant planet of Zalara, the Vorta Empire's leaders were also reeling from the news. The Vortans had been engaged in a series of covert operations against human interests, believing that undermining them would be easy. However, the failed attack had shown them that humans were far more resilient than they had thought. Emperor Koran of the Vorta Empire paced his grand hall, his expression dark and troubled. "The Shadow Guild's failure is a serious blow to our plans," he said to his advisors. "We must reevaluate our tactics and consider a new approach. Humans are not to be underestimated. The Vortans, like many other races, had been preparing for a future where humans might play a more significant role. However, the unexpected success of human defenses had forced them to confront a new reality. The Vorta Empire, known for its strategic acumen, now found itself in a precarious position. Across the galaxy, reactions to the incident were varied. Some races saw it as an opportunity to ally with humans, hoping to gain favor and protect their own interests. Others saw it as a challenge and began to prepare for potential conflicts. The galaxy was a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and shifting power dynamics, and the failed assassination had stirred the pot. In the human space sector, the incident was a cause for celebration. The news had boosted morale and solidified the belief that humans were a force to be reckoned with. Ambassador Jameson's team was hailed as heroes, and their successful defense of the diplomat became a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity. Admiral Aaron Blackwood, a seasoned veteran of the United Earth Fleet, addressed a gathering of military leaders and diplomats. "This incident has shown the galaxy that we are not to be trifled with," he said. "Our enemies underestimated us, and now we have the opportunity to prove our strength and resolve. We must use this moment to advance our interests and build new alliances." The Admiral's words were met with enthusiastic applause. The humans were ready to capitalize on the shift in their standing and strengthen their position in galactic politics. The failed assassination attempt had inadvertently opened doors for new opportunities and alliances. However, not everyone was thrilled with the new status quo. In the shadows, the remnants of the Shadow Guild were plotting their revenge. Xylar, the leader of the failed assassination team, had been forced into hiding. His failure was a stain on his record, and he was determined to restore his reputation. In secret meetings with his remaining allies, Xylar vowed to make things right. "The humans may have won this round, but we will not be defeated so easily," he said. "We will regroup, reassess our strategies, and strike when they least expect it. Our vengeance will be swift and decisive." The Shadow Guild's plans were shrouded in secrecy, but the determination to regain their lost honor was evident. The failed mission had left a deep mark on their organization, and they were prepared to go to great lengths to restore their reputation. Back in the human sector, efforts were underway to strengthen defenses and ensure that such an incident would never happen again. Security protocols were enhanced, and new technologies were implemented to safeguard against future threats. The incident had highlighted vulnerabilities, and the humans were determined to address them proactively. As the galaxy adjusted to the new reality, the balance of power continued to shift. The once quiet human race had become a significant player, and the old order was being challenged. The incident had been a catalyst for change, and the galaxy was bracing itself for the ripple effects of the new dynamics. The failure of the Shadow Guild's mission was not just a setback for their organization, but a turning point for the galaxy as a whole. The once quiet humans had shown their strength, and the consequences of the incident were far-reaching. The galaxy was in flux, and the future was uncertain. The shockwaves across the galaxy had set the stage for new alliances, conflicts, and shifts in power. The tale of the failed assassination was only beginning, and its repercussions would shape the galaxy's future in ways no one could yet predict. The incident had turned the spotlight on humanity, and the galaxy would never view them in the same light again. The assassin's decision. The galaxy was abuzz with news of the failed assassination. Among those most affected were the assassins themselves, the members of the Shadow Guild who had been sent to eliminate Ambassador Alara Jameson. In their secretive headquarters on the dark world of Kraloth, the mood was grim. Xylar, the leader of the assassins, paced back and forth in his dimly lit chamber. His sharp eyes were filled with frustration and determination. The failure of the mission had not only been a blow to their pride, but also a significant setback to their carefully laid plans. The Shadow Guild had long been feared and respected for its precision and efficiency, but this failure had shaken their confidence. In a high-security meeting room, Xylar convened a council of his most trusted lieutenants. The room was filled with a palpable tension as they gathered around a holographic display of the galaxy, marking key points of interest and their recent operations. Xylar began, his voice cold and measured. The incident was a disaster. "We underestimated the humans, and our failure has exposed us. We must make a decision on how to proceed." Siva, one of Xylar's top assassins, spoke up. "The humans are proving to be more resilient than we anticipated. Their defenses are stronger, and their resolve is unwavering. If we continue with our current approach, we risk further failure." Kara, another member of the council, nodded in agreement. "We need to rethink our strategy. The humans have shown that they are not an easy target. Perhaps it's time to consider a different tactic." Xylar's eyes narrowed as he listened. He was not used to taking advice from his subordinates, but the gravity of the situation demanded it. The failure of the assassination had far-reaching consequences, and he knew they needed to adapt quickly. "We cannot afford more mistakes," Xylar said firmly. "Our reputation is on the line, and we must restore it. I propose a new approach. Instead of direct confrontation, we should focus on covert operations and manipulation." The lieutenants exchanged looks of contemplation. Covert operations and manipulation were tactics that required subtlety and patience. It would involve working behind the scenes to undermine their targets rather than engaging in direct attacks. "What do you suggest?" Siva asked. "We need to gather more intelligence on the humans," Xylar replied. "Find their weaknesses, their internal conflicts, and their vulnerabilities. If we can exploit these, we can achieve our objectives without facing them head-on." Kara leaned forward. "And what about Ambassador Jameson? She's a symbol of human resilience now. If we target her again, it could lead to even greater retaliation." Xylar considered this. "We must avoid making her a target. Instead, we should focus on smaller, less protected targets that can still cause significant disruption. We need to create chaos and sow discord among their ranks. The council members nodded in agreement. The new strategy would be less about brute force and more about clever manipulation. They would use their skills to create divisions and spread misinformation, hoping to destabilize the human position without drawing too much attention to themselves. In the coming days, the Shadow Guild's operatives went to work. They infiltrated human space, posing as allies and neutral parties. They planted false information and spread rumors, aiming to create mistrust among the humans' ranks. Their goal was to weaken the human resolve and make it easier for them to strike when the time was right. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Alara Jameson was focused on her recovery and reinforcing security measures. The failed assassination had highlighted the need for increased vigilance, and she worked closely with military and intelligence officials to address the new threats. Her determination was unwavering, and she continued to champion human interests in the galactic arena. Jameson's efforts were supported by Admiral Aaron Blackwood and his team. They were actively monitoring for any signs of new threats and working to ensure that the humans remained united and strong. The failed assassination had united humanity, and they were more determined than ever to protect their interests. As the Shadow Guild's covert operations began to take effect, small incidents of sabotage and misinformation started to emerge. Reports of internal conflicts and mistrust among human factions began to surface. The humans were aware of the potential for such attacks, but remained vigilant and focused on maintaining their unity. Xylar and his lieutenants closely monitored the results of their efforts. They were careful to remain hidden and avoid direct confrontation, relying instead on the chaos they had sown to achieve their goals. The Shadow Guild's new strategy was in full swing, and they hoped it would restore their reputation and achieve their objectives. The galaxy continued to watch with bated breath as the struggle between the Shadow Guild and humanity unfolded. The failed assassination had set the stage for a new kind of conflict, one that was less about direct combat and more about subtle manipulation and covert operations. In the shadows of the galaxy, the game of power and influence continued. The Shadow Guild's decision to shift their tactics had changed the dynamics of the conflict, and the repercussions of their actions would be felt across the cosmos. As both sides adapted to the new reality, the future remained uncertain, and the outcome of the struggle was yet to be determined. The hidden threat in the shadowy corridors of the Shadow Guild's base on Kraloth, the atmosphere was tense. The Guild's new covert operations had sparked both hope and anxiety among its members. The recent sabotage efforts had caused noticeable disruptions, but the humans remained resilient. Their response was swift, and they seemed determined to uncover the source of the chaos. Xylar, the leader of the Shadow Guild, convened another urgent meeting with his lieutenants. They gathered around a holographic display that showed various points of unrest and sabotage within human space. The map was littered with red markers indicating areas where the Guild's interference had been detected. "This is getting more complicated," Xylar said, his voice cold and steady. "Our actions are causing disruptions, but they are also drawing more attention. The humans are beginning to close in on us." Siva, one of the Guild's most skilled operatives, frowned as she studied the map. "Our attempts to create discord are working, but the humans are adapting faster than we anticipated. They are becoming more vigilant and resourceful." Kara, another key member of the council, nodded. "Our hidden threat is being exposed. We need to escalate our efforts or change our approach to maintain our advantage." Xylar's eyes narrowed. "We cannot afford to be discovered. We must find a way to operate more discreetly. The humans are getting too close to uncovering our network." As Xylar spoke, a new message arrived from one of their operatives in human space. The message was encrypted, but it was clear that the operative had made a significant discovery. The team gathered around a secondary holographic display as Xylar decrypted the message. The display showed a series of intercepted communications between human military units. The messages revealed that the humans had identified a pattern of sabotage and were now actively searching for the source. They had even begun to suspect that there might be an internal traitor. "This is troubling," Xylar said, his voice tinged with frustration. The humans are onto us, and their investigation is gaining momentum. We need to act quickly to prevent them from discovering our true motives. Siva suggested, we should create a diversion to throw them off our trail. Perhaps we could stage a false lead that points to a different source of the sabotage. Xylar considered this idea carefully. A diversion could work, but we need to ensure that it doesn't backfire. We must be careful not to reveal too much about ourselves in the process. The guild's operatives went to work on creating a false lead. They planted misleading evidence and forged communications to suggest that the sabotage was the work of a rival faction within human space. The goal was to redirect the humans' investigation and buy the guild more time to operate unnoticed. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Ilara Jameson was deeply concerned about the recent wave of sabotage. Her office was filled with reports and updates from various intelligence sources. The attacks were becoming more frequent and sophisticated, and it was clear that someone was working behind the scenes to disrupt their efforts. Jameson convened a meeting with Admiral Aaron Blackwood and his top analysts. We've detected a pattern in the recent incidents. It's not random chaos, it's deliberate and targeted. We need to identify the source and stop them before they cause any more damage. Admiral Blackwood nodded. We've been tracking the disruptions and analyzing the data. There are indications that these attacks are coming from a coordinated group, not just isolated incidents. The intelligence team had identified several potential suspects, including known dissidents and fringe elements. However, the pattern of the attacks suggested a more organized effort. The humans began to focus on uncovering any hidden factions or external threats that could be behind the sabotage. As the humans closed in, Xylar's operatives worked diligently to maintain their cover. They continued to spread misinformation and create false leads, hoping to keep the humans off balance. The Shadow Guild's efforts to remain hidden were becoming increasingly challenging as the humans' investigation grew more intense. In the midst of the heightened tension, Xylar received a disturbing report from one of his operatives stationed on Earth. The report revealed that the humans had begun to suspect that the sabotage might be the work of an external force rather than an internal issue. This realization posed a significant threat to the Shadow Guild's operations. We're running out of time, Xylar said to his lieutenants. The humans are closing in on the truth. We need to escalate our efforts to mislead them and create more confusion. The Guild decided to intensify their operations by targeting key human infrastructure and spreading even more misinformation. They aimed to create so much chaos that the humans would be overwhelmed and unable to pinpoint the true source of the disruptions. As the Shadow Guild's efforts continued, the humans remained vigilant and resolute. They were determined to uncover the hidden threat and protect their interests. The stakes were high, and both sides knew that the outcome of this struggle would have far-reaching consequences. The hidden threat posed by the Shadow Guild was a constant reminder of the challenges faced by the humans. The galaxy watched with bated breath as the conflict unfolded, knowing that the balance of power was in the hands of those who could outmaneuver their opponents. In the shadows of the galaxy, the game of deceit and manipulation continued. The Shadow Guild's attempt to remain hidden was a testament to their skill and cunning, but the humans' resilience and determination were equally formidable. As the struggle between the two sides intensified, the future remained uncertain, and the true extent of the hidden threat was yet to be fully revealed. The showdown. The conflict reached a boiling point as the Shadow Guild and the humans prepared for a decisive confrontation. The tension was palpable, and both sides knew that the upcoming battle could change the fate of the galaxy. In the depths of the Shadow Guild's hidden headquarters, Xylar paced anxiously. The Guild had managed to keep their operations under wraps, but the humans were closing in with relentless determination. The latest intelligence reports indicated that the humans had pinpointed several key locations tied to the Guild's activities. "This is it," Xylar said to his lieutenants, his voice filled with resolve. "The humans are about to launch a major operation to expose us. We need to be ready." Siva, one of the Guild's most skilled operatives, nodded. "We've prepared for this moment. Our countermeasures are in place and our forces are positioned. We just need to execute our plan flawlessly." Kara, another key member of the council, added, "The humans are underestimating us. They think they have the upper hand, but they don't realize how much we've prepared for this." The guild's operatives were busy making final preparations. They fortified their positions, set up defensive measures, and readied their weapons. The goal was to create a formidable defense that would make it nearly impossible for the humans to breach their stronghold. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Alara Jameson was coordinating the human response from her command center. The latest intelligence had given the humans a clear picture of the Shadow Guild's locations and operations. The plan was to launch a coordinated strike on multiple fronts to overwhelm the guild and bring their operations to a halt. Admiral Aaron Blackwood, leading the human fleet, reviewed the final battle plans. "We have the element of surprise, and we've gathered all the necessary intelligence. Our forces are ready. This is our chance to end the threat once and for all." Jameson nodded, her expression serious. "We need to be precise in our strikes. We can't afford to make any mistakes. If we're going to defeat them, we need to hit them hard and fast." As the human fleet mobilized, the tension in the galaxy was at its peak. Ships moved into position, and the countdown to the assault began. The Shadow Guild was prepared for a fierce fight, but they knew that the humans were coming with everything they had. The battle commenced with a fierce barrage of energy blasts and missile strikes. The human fleet targeted the guild's stronghold with precision, aiming to cripple their defenses and force them into a defensive position. The shadowy corridors of the guild's headquarters were filled with the sounds of explosions and alarms as the attack began. Xylar and his lieutenants commanded their forces from a secure command center, watching the unfolding chaos on multiple screens. "They're hitting us hard," Xylar said, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "We need to hold the line and keep them from breaching our inner defenses." The guild's operatives fought bravely, repelling the human assault with a combination of advanced technology and tactical skill. The battle was fierce and unforgiving, with both sides pushing their limits to gain the upper hand. Explosions rocked the guild's stronghold, and the clash of weapons echoed through the corridors. Despite their efforts, the guild's defenses were slowly being worn down. The humans' relentless assault and superior firepower began to take a toll. Xylar's lieutenants fought valiantly, but the pressure was immense. The guild's carefully laid plans were starting to unravel as the human forces advanced. As the battle raged on, Xylar made a critical decision. "We need to activate our last line of defense," he ordered. "Deploy the experimental weapons. If we can't drive them back, we'll at least make sure they pay dearly for their victory." The guild's experimental weapons were unleashed, creating devastating energy bursts that shook the battlefield. The human fleet was momentarily thrown into disarray, but the humans quickly adapted and pressed on. Admiral Blackwood issued new orders to counter the guild's last-ditch efforts and maintain the assault. On the ground, the fighting was intense. The humans pushed forward, breaching the outer defenses of the guild's stronghold. The guild's operatives fought with desperation, knowing that their survival was on the line. Xylar coordinated the defense, trying to hold back the advancing human forces. Despite their best efforts, the guild's position was becoming increasingly untenable. The humans' superior tactics and overwhelming firepower were taking their toll. The guild's stronghold was breached, and the humans began to advance deeper into their base. Xylar knew that the battle was lost. He made the decision to withdraw and regroup. "We've done all we can here," he said to his lieutenants. "We need to fall back and plan our next move. This fight isn't over." The Shadow Guild's operatives began to retreat, their fallback positions set in place. The humans pressed forward, securing the guild's stronghold and capturing key areas. The battle was over, but the conflict was far from finished. Ambassador Jameson and Admiral Blackwood surveyed the aftermath of the battle. The human forces had achieved a significant victory, but they knew that the Shadow Guild was still a threat. The guild's retreat and the discovery of their stronghold had given the humans valuable intelligence, but the war was not yet won. The galaxy watched as the conflict between the Shadow Guild and the humans continued. The showdown had been a turning point, but both sides were preparing for the next phase of their struggle. The fight for control and power was far from over, and the future remained uncertain. In the aftermath of the battle, the Shadow Guild regrouped and began to plan their next move. The humans, having dealt a significant blow to their enemies, prepared for the challenges ahead. The struggle for dominance continued, with both sides ready to face whatever came next in their relentless pursuit of victory. The aftermath. The echo of the battle's chaos slowly faded as the dust settled over the shattered remains of the Shadow Guild's stronghold. The once bustling corridors were now eerily silent, the hum of advanced machinery replaced by the occasional crackle of damaged equipment. The humans had secured the area, but the cost of their victory was evident. Ambassador Elara Jameson walked through the wreckage, her face a mask of both triumph and concern. The destruction was immense, and the sight of it weighed heavily on her. Despite the success of the operation, she knew that this victory was just a single step in a much larger and ongoing conflict. "Admiral Blackwood," Jameson said as she approached the command center where the Admiral was reviewing the final reports. "We've secured the stronghold and captured several key guild members. What's our next move?" Admiral Aaron Blackwood looked up from his console, his face lined with fatigue. "We've accomplished a lot today, but we must be cautious. The Shadow Guild is a powerful enemy, and their reach extends far beyond this base. We need to analyze the intelligence we've gathered and prepare for any potential retaliation." Jameson nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We'll need to strengthen our security and continue our offensive against any remaining guild operations. This victory has given us valuable insights into their capabilities and weaknesses." Back at the Shadow Guild's headquarters, Xylar was dealing with the aftermath of the battle. The once proud guild now faced a grim reality. The humans had not only defeated them, but had also exposed many of their secrets. The guild's operations were in disarray, and the future was uncertain. Xylar convened a meeting with his remaining lieutenants in a secure location. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows on the walls. The mood was somber as they gathered to discuss their next steps. "We've suffered a significant defeat," Xylar began, his voice grim. "The humans have taken our stronghold, and our resources are severely depleted. We need to regroup and reassess our strategy." One of the lieutenants, Siva, spoke up. "What about the experimental weapons? They were supposed to be our trump card." Xylar shook his head. "The humans were prepared for that. Our fallback plans have been compromised, and we've lost too much to recover quickly. We need to focus on survival and rebuilding." Kara, another key member, added, "We should consider forming new alliances." Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans began to analyze the data they had collected from the Shadow Guild's stronghold. The intelligence revealed not only the Guild's operations, but also hints of other potential threats lurking in the shadows of the galaxy. Dr. Elena Martinez, a leading analyst, worked tirelessly to decrypt the data. "This information is more than just operational details," she said to her team. "It points to a network of allies and potential sleeper agents. We need to identify these threats before they become active." Admiral Blackwood agreed. "We'll need to tighten our security and increase surveillance. The Shadow Guild may be down, but their network is still a threat." Jameson and Blackwood coordinated their efforts, focusing on both immediate security concerns and long-term strategy. The victory had brought relief, but the reality of ongoing threats reminded them that the struggle was far from over. Back at the Shadow Guild's remaining hideouts, the guild members worked in secret, trying to salvage what they could from the wreckage. The guild's leaders knew that they had to act quickly to avoid total collapse. The humans' victory had disrupted their plans, but it had also provided them with a chance to regroup and adapt. Xylar, Siva, and Kara began to reach out to potential allies, making offers of mutual benefit. They sought to forge new alliances with factions that had their own grievances against the humans. The goal was to create a new coalition that could challenge human dominance and restore the guild's influence. As the weeks passed, both sides continued their preparations. The Shadow Guild worked to rebuild and strengthen its position, while the humans focused on consolidating their gains and preparing for any possible counterattacks. The galaxy watched with bated breath as the struggle between the Shadow Guild and the humans unfolded. The aftermath of the battle had shifted the balance of power, but it had also set the stage for new conflicts and alliances. In the end, the battle had shown that even in the face of defeat, the guild's resolve remained strong. The Shadow Guild was far from finished, and the humans knew that they had to stay vigilant. The galaxy was a place of constant change, and the fight for dominance was far from over. Both sides prepared for the challenges ahead, knowing that the future of the galaxy depended on their actions. The struggle between the Shadow Guild and the humans was a testament to the complexity and unpredictability of interstellar conflict. As they moved forward, each side was determined to emerge victorious, no matter the cost.